guys, today I have for you a creepy kind of mix between a scarecrow and a clown, and it's pretty easy, so let's get into it. I started out by cutting some diamond shapes out of a dress that I had thrifted a while ago. It has kind of a burlappy look to it, so I thought that would be great for this. I always like to go to the thrift stores before I buy any other costumes because you never know what you could find there. Even if you just need the fabric, there's usually a lot of gems that you can find. So I'm placing those where I want them to be and taking a brown eyeshadow and just running that around the inside of those holes that I cut out for my eyes. This is just a rough guide, so it doesn't need to look nice or anything. We're not even going to be able to see it. So now that I've done that, I'm taking a black gel liner and just filling in those circles. Again, this doesn't need to look nice. We really just want to black everything out so that our eyes will look nice and creepy under the mask. And then you don't really need to do this, but I took a blending brush and just softened up around the edges, and now I'm going in with a matte black eyeshadow and just packing that all over top of the gel liner. Then I'm blacking out my waterline using a black pencil liner. I'm then setting that using the same matte black eyeshadow. Then the last thing we need to do to totally black out our eyes is apply some black mascara to top and bottom lashes. Now, to protect my eyebrow hairs from the liquid latex, since that's what I'll be using to adhere the diamonds to my skin, I'm applying a couple layers of a washable, non-toxic glue stick over them. So I used a disposable makeup sponge to apply the liquid latex around the edges of the inside of the diamond, and then while it's still wet, I pressed it against my skin and then peeled it off so that I had a guide and knew where to apply the liquid latex to my face. And then once I have it applied, I'm just letting it dry for a minute, and then I'm going to line up my diamond and press it down. At this point, liquid latex will stick together really well, so you want to make sure that it is indeed lined up and where you want it to go. And then you also want to make sure that you have movement around your nose and mouth before you really press that in. Then I'm just going to repeat that same exact process on the other side. Now that I have both diamonds applied, I'm going back in with that black eyeshadow, and I'm running that along the edges of the fabric and kind of smudging it out to make it look more grungy and dirty. You can make this look as dark as you want to, and you can also take a brown eyeshadow along with the black to do your shading. I'm also adding some shading underneath where the diamonds overlapped. And then I'm taking a disposable makeup sponge and picking it apart so that one end has some texture on it, or you could also use a textured sea sponge. This is a really popular way to add some texture to your skin, and I'm first just using my regular foundation shade and applying that all over my face, everywhere besides my nose. Now I'm taking a reddish brown eyeshadow and I'm going to start doing some messy contouring. To make it look more on the smudgy side rather than the nice and blended out side, I'm using stippling motions rather than swiping motions. And I'm also adding some of this color to the mask. I'm adding some of this around the forehead, and then I'm going to take a cooler toned contour shade and just start stippling and blending that over top. I also decided to take it back onto my ears and down along my jawline and under the chin. Then I'm going back in with my foundation shade on that textured sponge, and I'm just stippling that over top of what we just contoured to kind of break up the color a bit, and I'm also going to apply it to the mask. And now we're going to take a brown eyeshadow and we're going to start contouring? We're going to start shading underneath the edges of the mask. And as we go along, I'm going to start taking this shadow up onto the edges of the fabric like we did around the eyes to start giving it a more dirty, grungy look. Then we're taking our black eyeshadow to darken and deepen some of those shadows, and the only place that we're not covering for now is around the nose. We're going to leave that until after we add our orange. For the nose, I'm adding NYX's Lip Suede in the shade Orange County, and I'm applying this all over the blank area on the nose as well as underneath in a bit of a round rounded shape. And then while that dries a bit, I am adding some brown and black liquid lipstick to the lips, and I'm just applying it to the center and then smudging it out with my fingers. Again, just making it look super messy and gross. I decided to take the black out into a smile, so I first took it out into the smile shape and again smudged it out with my fingers, and then I made a more darker defined line to deepen the smile. And then once I've done that, I'm going over with a black eyeshadow to help set it in place and again to help deepen that shadow. And I'm also adding this black eyeshadow to the lips and smudging it around as well. I felt like the orange was a little bit too bright for me, so I'm then taking a lighter tan shade and applying it over top, and then I'm going to add the brown and black shading around the nose. I'm adding a little bit of shading around the bottom of that nose shape, and then to define it a little bit more, I'm taking a black body paint and using a detail brush to line along that line, and then adding more shadow. And then I felt like it was a bit too round, so I went back in with the body paint and flattened it out a bit. And then with the leftover paint on my brush, I am just adding some lines to the nose, kind of like the ridges of a pumpkin. And I'm using my finger to just stipple over and blend those out a little bit so they're not so intense. Then with a red cream makeup, I am taking that underneath the edges of the fabric again where I did the shading, and this doesn't need to be super even. And I'm also using my finger to just kind of blend that out in certain areas to give it a more irritated look. Then before I go in with the blood, I'm going back to those brown and black eyeshadows and adding some more of that grunginess around the edges of the mask where I felt like it needed a bit more. Then once I've done that, I'm going in with Graftobian's blood paste. You could also use scab blood for this. And I'm just taking that over where I just applied the red cream makeup. I'm applying this using a pointed silicone brush and then just using my finger to again kind of stipple over and blend and smudge it out. And feel free to add as much blood as you want to. I'm also adding some blood onto the mask and around my mouth. If you want to use the blood inside your mouth, please just make sure that it is a mouth-safe blood, and it should say right on the package whether or not it is mouth-safe or not. Or you can make your own homemade edible blood with light corn syrup, chocolate syrup, food coloring, coffee grounds, and cornstarch. So I've also made a collar out of the same fabric that I used for the mask, and I've put some of that black stitching in it as well, and that's just a black embroidery floss. I weaved some of the same fabric through the middle of that so that I could scrunch it up and tie it in the back, and now I'm taking some twine and just wrapping that around the neck, and you might want some help with this so you don't get all tangled up like I did. And I started with my end at the beginning because I wanted to see that knot in the front. And then once I had that all wrapped up and tied in the front, I'm just going in and adjusting it to get it how I want it. And then I'm going in with a brown water activated body paint on a textured sponge like before. And I'm just going to start adding some texture to the shoulders and also onto my ears and up on the forehead. I hadn't planned on it, but I thought it needed to look a bit more gross and grungy. And then I'm applying a black eyeshadow to my neck, and also I'm taking this up onto the ears and the forehead and wherever we applied that brown. Then over top of that, I'm applying the red cream makeup mainly to the shoulders, and I'm using that same sponge and just stippling over to create some more grungy texture. And then I'm going to dirty up the collar like I did with the mask using the brown and black eyeshadows and the blood. I decided to add some blood onto the shoulders as well using that textured sponge, and then for my hair I just made it look really messy and gross and added in some hairspray. And I do wish I would have had like a little scarecrow hat or something, which thinking back on it now I could have made one using the rest of that dress fabric, but I recommend a hat nonetheless. So that's gonna do it for this creepy scarecrow clown guy. So I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to subscribe and stick around for more Halloween tutorials. I'm trying to post as many as I can. So hopefully I will see you guys tomorrow.